All right. Hello there. Welcome. It's me, Bill Patton again. And we're going to talk about having your brain operate at optimal capacity, optimal operation on using all cylinders, which can't hurt you. Um, and we'll get into some of the ways that sometimes people think that their brain works against them, but not really. Anyway, so I'm going to give you 10 things, and then I'm going to I've got some ideas that I'm going to spin off from those 10 ideas, but I'm going to handle them one at a time. So this is going to be a 10 things you can do for optimal brain health and operation, and not in any particular order. So I'm not ranking them necessarily. In fact, some of them might not really pertain to you because you've got that one dialed in. So like the first one is exercise. So now there's some debate, I suppose, between whether exercise or sleep is actually more important for the health of your brain. And Dr. Peter Attia, who wrote the book Outlive, which I'm almost halfway through, in the latest chapter that I was reading, was making the case for the fact that exercise helps get, a lot of those proteins exiting your body because, you're flushing out waste. Really good point there. Also, this morning I was reading the top 5 neuroscience discoveries of last week, and one of them was a connection between your liver and your brain and Alzheimer's / dementia. And so, the premise of the study was that they discovered that if your liver's healthy, then it doesn't produce as many bad proteins that will then end up in your brain. So the amyloid beta, that is a problem, and then leads to the accumulation of proteins that are not healthy, and then you get plaque essentially. And Dr. Attia also is against the idea that the buildup of plaque is the number one cause of dementia, Alzheimer's, different types of aging brain diseases. So, but you can't go wrong by, reducing the amount of plaque in your brain. And you can't go wrong by exercising. And because that's one of the ways that you're going to, keep your liver healthy, is by flushing out toxins, by keeping everything moving. And then you can also sweat out a lot of toxins. So I'm trying to get back into running. And lately I've been walking a lot. But today I decided to throw in some 1-minute bouts of running to speed up my walking pace. And then after I got warmed up a little bit, then I actually started doing 2 minutes, So, I've been kind of out of flying to Australia and working there and not really exercising much there. And then also the move here to San Diego has kept me from having a lot of free time to really get fit. So anyway, so I'm back at it. And so, which now when your brain is operating at full health, then you can also handle higher rates of heart rate. So now, yesterday I was at Steve Riggs's coaching workshop, and that was held in Mission Viejo. And Frank Giampolo gave a great presentation. And one of the points that he was making was that you need to be within optimal heart rate band in order to, so you need your heart rate to be high enough that you've got some intensity, but you also need it to be low enough that you can, do a good job of having clarity, mental clarity for your shot. And then when people's heart rate gets really elevated, then they start freaking out, you know. The question I asked was, is part of the reason why people don't come to the net the fact that the difference between a tough baseline point and a tough point at the net is that when you're at the baseline, if you have a really tough point, your heart rate can be 160 to 180 beats a minute. But if you go to the net, it could be 180 to 200, and going right up against someone's maximum heart rate, which is scary for people. And then Ken DeHart, also commented that then if you lose the point and you have to do the walk of shame back to the net, back to the baseline, then it's a tough walk. But if you lost the point at the baseline and then all you have to do is turn away from that, it's a different kind of a feeling. So that's a good psychological thing to train, to be able to be ready to face some disappointment if you go forward and play, and you have to play 2 or 3 volleys, or 2 volleys and an overhead. I mean, that'll get you tired if you really have to stretch and move and leap to do that. But if you win that, it can be incredibly thrilling, very much an adrenaline burst. But all this leads back to exercise and training. So I was on a panel called Ask the Experts, and one of the questions was, what do you tell players when they're going into a third set to prepare them? And I thought that was a great question because it goes back to training. And so, one thing I do is make sure that when you're training athletes, prepare them under similar conditions to what they're going to face. So I would like to have them go through a pretty intense fitness period of time, and get them pretty good and exhausted, and then have them play a set. And then it's like, okay, now this is the feeling of being in a third set. Thank goodness high schools, still play 3 sets. A lot of them do. And, they'll only shift to, a lot of high schools will only shift to a 10-point tiebreaker for the third if the overall match has been determined. Here in Southern California, everybody has to play 3 sets because you play 1 set against each person, each of the 3 singles players. So, that's something you have to train for. You have to be ready. And, if they all end up being 3 tough sets, that's going to be a good workout. The other thing is that you have to also be ready to manage your intensity. So, if you find that you're having a dip in intensity, you got to get yourself fired up, get your heart rate up. There's a natural dip in intensity that happens after winning a set. So it's really important to make sure you have very good intensity at the beginning of each set. And if you are particularly elated because maybe you won a second set and it was tough and you were very excited to win that, and now you have the dopamine effect followed by lowered blood pressure and heart rate, then hold on. I know texting while you're talking to somebody is rude, but this is important because it has to do with lunch. All right. So where was I? Yeah. So you have to be able to go, all right, I just won the set, but now I have to get back to work. So I'll celebrate and get that over with. Okay, good. I'm done celebrating. And then, all right, got to gear up and get ready to play another good couple of games, because a player that's lost the set is more than likely, if they're worth their salt, is going to gear up and really try to come out with a strong start. Now, when it comes to those horrific matches that I hate called best of two, where you play a 10-point tiebreaker instead of a legitimate set to decide it, and it becomes sort of a crapshoot. And there's this issue where a large percentage, I'm going to guess it's somewhere around 70%. It could be lower. I'd be surprised if it's lower than 2/3, but it could be 60%. I don't know. Of when people win the second set, then they oftentimes lose the 10-point tiebreaker. And the reason is because they have a momentary lapse of intensity, and then they find themselves down, 1-4 or love 5 or, 2-6, in that 10-point tiebreaker, just because for a couple of minutes, they weren't really on it. And that thing starts pretty much right away. Play is continuous. I don't see people getting a 10-minute break between doing that. So, you've got, maybe you get the 2-minute set break, but people don't even usually take that. So get yourself geared up. And really the main way you can do that is by, dancing around, doing some footwork stuff, getting something to get your heart rate up. That's going to be the best way to do that. But this all leads back to fitness, because if you are training yourself to be able to go and take your heart rate, way up, to uncomfortable levels, and you get comfortable with being uncomfortable. And then you also then learn, and then you're trained well enough that your heart rate can come down quickly. Keep it there. Uh-oh, I hope I didn't lose you there. So I'm going to say that over again, just because I had a little blip on my screen right there. But players who are more fit have better. I'm going to answer Shay's question in a second there. Thank you for that comment. All right. Players who are more fit are also better at recovering in between points and on 90-second changeovers. And then they're going to have an advantage. All right. So here's a comment. Shay, this is Court Ready at on Instagram, and I do believe that's her handle on YouTube as well. I lost a 10-point tiebreaker recently. My partner and I should have opted for a third set. Instead, couldn't find momentum. Yeah, I don't know. It's fun. I always like the third set, especially because I'm confident that my players will be among the most fit. The longer that match goes on, the better advantage that we have, because we're better at recovering. So, especially if we lost the first set, I like the idea of winning the second and then continuing that momentum into the third. I think I will almost never choose a 10-point tiebreaker, because, a double fault or a ball that just dribbles over the net or some crazy shot where you feel like the person, should have opened their eyes when they hit it, and, can change things pretty dramatically. In an actual set, you have the advantage that each game resets. So even a lucky shot or two where you might lose a game means you can still recover from that. But you get a couple of weird points that go this way or that way, and now you're down 6-2. That's pretty rough to come back from. So because that tiebreaker won't be resetting at love all. So anyway, hey, Shay, thanks for watching. Thanks for commenting. And it's been a short one here, but yeah, get out there and exercise, and, train your players to exercise well and find the stuff that they like and find the stuff that they need, because sometimes people don't like leg day. Sometimes people don't like to do cardio. A lot of times people do not like to do the anaerobic training. So get out there and do some sprints and some box jumps and some spider runs. Do lots of change of direction. Anyway, thanks for watching, and we'll see you hopefully tomorrow.